Welcome, guys. This week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This week's slightly different to how I thought it was going to pan out. I was going to pan out in such a way that I thought I would do a two-part episode where I would talk about the new Bruce Dickinson single, Afterglow of Ragnarok, and then the Absolute Game by the Skids on the second part. But after reflection, I think I'm going to do a separate, small episode of reaction to that single, because I haven't actually received a physical copy of it yet, and I haven't given myself enough time with it yet, really, to be truthful. So let's crack on and do the Absolute Game by the Skids. Now, the Skids are one of those punk bands that, for me, are very important. They sort of came about in my musical journey, as it were, when I was about 16. Probably a bit earlier, because my brother had, I think he had Working for the Yankee Dollar on single at home, and I remember him playing it quite a bit. And so for me, it sort of like they were always there in the background. Now, for those people who are new to this show, and those that are not, you might understand that I do love my punk, and I love my heavy metal, and I love my progressive rock and all that sort of stuff. But for me, the punk is one of those sort of deep down love affairs that, like a good love affair, lasts forever. Okay. Now the Skids formed in '77 in Dunfermline in Scotland. The lead vocalist is Richard Jobson, who I had just had the privilege last week to interview for his upcoming Australian tour and the new album. And I'll be on Metal Ruse very soon, and I would put a link to it in my on my Facebook page when it's up and ready and live. Now, the band itself consisted up to this until the end of 1980. The original lineup was Richard Jobson on lead vocals and guitar as well, and keyboards, and then it was Mike Bailey on drums and Russell Webb on bass. The album that we could talk about is their third album, which is Absolute Game. Now, it came out in 1980. They had several genre-defining albums, in my opinion, that came out in '79. And that was Scared to Dance, which I was going to do, but I thought, no, I want to do Absolute Game because there's a bit more texture, a bit more to it. And then the rather controversial Days in Europa. If you listen to the interview I do with Rob Jobson, you'll understand why that was controversial. Won't go into that one now. But Absolute Game came out in 1980, and it was the last of the original lineup, unfortunately, because at the end of the album tour for this album, both Stuart Adamson and Stuart Adamson and Russell Webb. Russell Webb had left the band. No, sorry, Mike Bailey, not Russell Webb, the drummer, had left the band, and over to musical differences. Now, why have I picked the third album, you might ask yourself? Well, the reason I picked the third album is that often the best albums, the best of what band does is usually comes in and around about their third album. Really, truly. They say tricky third album, but I actually think, or tricky second album, but the third album usually gets a bit lost. I don't think that's the case here. I think this is for me, quite clearly their best work. And I was thinking about this quite sort of thoroughly recently when I was listening to the album, and it comes to my mind that great bands and grow beyond their genre and beyond their limitations of the music they intend to play, down to one factor, usually one member of the band, who is that one little bit more, I don't know, dynamic, aggressively, hardworking, or talented, or just all of the above. And with these Skids, now, a lot of people, they sort of listen to punk music and they think it's very one-dimensional, and they think that it's straightforward, 1, 2, 3, 4, which yes it is. And Richard says, was talking to me, and he said the same thing. He said that he still thinks it is, but I think that this album particularly, and this band particularly, were much bigger than the sound that they think they were making. I mean, what I mean by that is that in the same respect that XTC were considered a punk band or a new wave band, the Skids were always thought of as a punk band and then into a new wave band. And I actually genuinely think they sort of helped create the new wave sound. I mean, if anyone doesn't understand, punk sort of turned into new wave at about 1980. Now, new wave is just a fancy term for saying that a more sophisticated pop-like option of the original formula of punk, right? And it usually means it was more synth involved, more pop, a bit more augmentation, a little bit more sophistication is what they... a lot more synths, as I said, more electric drums, a bit sort of borderline strapping across the punk to the synth pop explosion of the early 80s. It was new wave. Now, the man that sort of did this for the Skids, and they have their own particular sound, and the reason they have their own particular sound is that Stuart Adamson on guitars, who is no longer with us sadly, who took his own life quite a few years back now, was a tortured genius. Someone said he was the Jimi Hendrix of punk. I think that's a bit, for me, a little bit. I think it's a wrong thing to say. I think he was a very, very gifted guitarist. He had a very strong identity and sound. He understood. I mean, the first two albums, he wrote the lyrics and the music. It wasn't until Absolute Game that Richard Jobson started writing the lyrics. I think he may have had a few on, had some help on Days in Europa, but this album here is the one where you can really hear the emotional growth of the band. Absolutely. It now, if you ever, most people go, if they've listened to punk or have a best of punk album, or I think have somehow had some contact with it, they'll know things like Working for the Yankee Dollar and things like that. Now, for me, yes, this is where their sound comes from. They have a very unique Scottish sound, and I know that sounds a bit simple because they're from Dunfermline, but also there is something about this sort of Scottish sound that bands make from that part of the British Isles. There is a uniqueness to it, and sometimes some Scottish singers they will hide their accents to sort of avoid the maybe, I don't know, maybe they want to sell more records, so they don't want to sound as Scottish. Whereas Jobson, you couldn't get any more Scots than Jobson on this, for the Skids in general, I think. He's a very gifted songwriter, and he joined the band. He was the youngest of the band. He joined when he was 16, and the members of the band were 18 and 19, so he was one of the youngest members, and one of the youngest contingent of the sort of more popular punk bands of the time. And they had some minor success with Scared to Dance. Brilliant album, by the way. The title track is just an absolute masterpiece, to be in my opinion. And they had a lot of singles, a lot of like the Stranglers, like the XTC, like the Buzzcocks. They had songs that were sing along, that were easy to enjoy in a non-punk scenario, not on the radio. I mean, was it radio friendly? I mean, that's a horrible term, but radio friendly, I think, is it really? That's where I think they stood out from the rest of the crowd. You know, they had tracks like The Saints Have Come In and Into the Valley. A lot of people know The Saints Are Coming because it was covered by Green Day and U2, wasn't it? I think they do a sort of mix of it. I can't remember it I'm trying to remember it, but I can't remember. But that's that's off the first album, Scared to Dance, which I have a lovely copy of. My cover's a bit ripped now, but it was released on the 23rd of February 1979 on Virgin. 2 singles off it. An absolutely cracker of... it was Green Day and U2, there we go, which got to number 1. There we go. It's also Charlton FC's run-on music for the football club. So that's always good. But, you know, the album has songs like Into the Valley, Scared to Dance, Of One Skin, Dossier, Hope and Glory, Calling the Tune, Integral Plots. Great album. But we're not here to talk about that one. We're here to talk about Absolute Game. Now, Absolute Game is a bit odd for me. I'm going to talk about when we get to the other side of it. I'm going to chat about as I always do, track by track. But you'll notice it won't be in order of the one that's on your streaming platform. So those that don't have a physical copy of it, and I don't imagine a lot of you would, you're going to listen to it on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your streaming music. And it's not in the same running order. I don't know why. I've looked it up. I can't understand it. I only ever listened to the physical copy, to be honestly truthful, over the vinyl or the CD, and it's a different running order. And I'll tell you why it confuses me, because I've listened to it for the last 40 years, and it's always been this particular running order. And I know that they do weird things on streaming platforms, and bands do strange things as well. So I'll have to look. I couldn't find any information. Anyone knows why it's in a different running order, let me know, please. But I'll tell you why when we get to the other side, why I think it's a bit jarring, because it sort of does affect, for me, the listening pleasure. Now, it might be what the band, one of the band wanted originally. I don't know. It might be what Richard and the guys wanted, but I don't understand it personally. It confused me. I was trying to find some platform where I could, and then I thought, do I talk about it in the streaming platform sort of running order? I thought, no, I'm going to do it my vinyl, because that's how I listen to it. And so it won't make much difference about how we discuss the songs, but it will be different if you want to listen along to the rustling the lyric sheet. If you want to listen along to the album with me, so here we go. It's a much more folk orientated pop sort of album for me. It's a little bit more modern, because now they're using things like xylophones and keyboards, and there's a didgeridoo in there. I won't give it away too much, but there's a didgeridoo in there. And of course now on this album, because of the textures of it and the layers of it, Stuart couldn't do every guitar piece, so Richard reluctantly took on some guitar parts, which he said to me he wasn't comfortable with because it wasn't his natural instrument. But he gave it a go. If you watch early videos of them, Richard Jobson's just bouncing around like a punk superstar he is, but he is not. But then later on, he's on the guitars, and he does a decent job. The trouble is, I couldn't really find out which guitarist was which on the album, so I'm just going to say Stuart Jobson for every single one of them, because I'm so sorry. Stuart Adamson. So if I'm wrong on there, and there are some skids aficionados out there, tutting and waving their finger at me, please do actually write in and tell me which tracks, who played who on what, because it's a bit of a mystery to me. In fact, the band itself is a bit of a mystery. Looking for their stuff online, even trying to find the meanings behind the lyrics was really difficult. In fact, I couldn't find anything. So I just sat down and got, listened to it really carefully as I tried to, and see if I could decipher. Because it's not your typical anti-authoritarian 1, 2, 3, 4 punk anthems here. This is, as I said before, this is that step from punk to new wave, from new wave to synth pop. It's that sort of stepping stone. It's the complexities of XTC, the rhythmic complexities of, say, the Stranglers, and the lyrical depth of anything John Lydon would write. It's a very, very interesting album. So I hope that's whet your appetite for that. Anyway, so we're going to take a break, and I'll come back the other side and we'll talk about the album itself. Absolute Game by the Skids. Bye for now.
Head over to Hulu this March, where our new shows and movies will keep you streaming all month long. Catch the award-winning movie Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe. Check out the new documentary, Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told, about the iconic Atlanta Street Party. And don't miss FX's Shogun, a reimagining of the epic tale, starring Anna Sawai. So, what are you waiting for? Go stream something new on Hulu.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Welcome, guys, back to part 2. The Absolute Game by the Skids. A quick rundown at the beginning, as you would have seen the brief history and the making of the album. This, as I said before, is a really folksy kind of album. This is the vinyl rundown, by the way. As I said before, it's not. There is a different running order on the streaming platforms. Don't know why, can't work it out. Now, my copy, it was one of the that I've got, is quite a rare one. It's one of the first that came. It came with a second record, which was like all outtakes and stuff they didn't want, that they couldn't put on the original album. Quite controversially, we will talk about that at the end of the episode. But I just really want to concentrate on the original lineup. If you go to the streaming platform, you will get all the extra bits because it's the best of. You can't find, as I've complained about before, you cannot find one original version of it. I understand why we can't just have an original version of an album on streaming. Why does it always have to be the latest edition and then it seems to wipe off the original? I want to hear the original. I don't want to hear all the time the special new version of it. Yeah, it's good to have it, right? But that doesn't mean that's what I'm looking for. It honestly doesn't. It really fucking annoys me. It's sort of, I know that I've got a physical copy and I can take my physical copy to my very nice record deck and play it, but I can't carry my record deck around to the shops with me, can I? I know you can say, well, why don't you just, burn it to a CD? No, I don't. No, I want to be able to stream it if I'm going to stream it, and I want to be able to get the original copy, and it just annoys me. Anyway, rant over. So, the theme of this album, what is it? What is it about? Okay. So, first side, okay, we have opens with Circus Games, then we have Out of Town, Goodbye Civilian, The Children Saw the Shame, and Women in Winter, right? Then B-side, side 2, we have Hurry On Boys, Happy to Be With You, The Devil's Decade, One Decree, and Arena. Okay, that's how it might have always heard it, and it's how it should be for me. So, the two singles off the album were Circus Game and Goodbye Civilian. A lot of people know these songs. They might have heard them in passing and not realised what they were. They weren't massive hits, but they're certainly very skidsy. It has a sound, and you'll know. If you listen to the first two albums, as I said, Scared to Dance and Days in Europa, you'll understand what I mean by a skidsy sound, okay? So open with, now, the lyrical themes of this album. I spent some time thinking hard about the lyrical themes of this album, and I actually think it's about a lot of there's a lot of thematic about water, rivers and oceans, and boats and sailing. Jobson's dad worked in the dockyards in Scotland, so he has a connection with the water. Now, I think it's telling a story about people. Not all of it, because some of them don't come into that theme, but most of it comes from it's about, like, I think a lot of it's about getting away. I think what Jobson and Adamson are saying is get away. They're getting away. They want to be different. We open with Circus Games, lead single off the album, and it's a great vocal delivery here from Jobson. You know, the opening line, the mission is a gambler, the wager, the one card to play. It's a really nice folky refrain to it. The only downside to the single that I've heard people talk about and I've read about online, and I actually sort of agree and I never thought about it, is I think this could have been a massive hit had they not got children to sing the chorus, come play circus games, come play circus games. They basically come and play at circus games. They basically got a kids choir to do it. Now, I think it was sort of, they may have been heavily influenced by Floyd at the time. They might not admit it, but I think they might be with another brick in the wall and that sort of thing. I think they were thinking about trying to give it a more theatrical and operatic feel, and it does do that, but it takes away from the punchiness of it. It's a cute song. Like, I mean, it is. I mean, I'm going to read you the lyric of one of the choruses. Okay, here, the mother is a gambler, the wager, the one card to play. Birth has the burden. She says no to children today. Midst all dishonour, she sees a heavy noose. Since child is an angel, the mother one child set loose. I think that also could be about infanticide as well. If you bring that lyric closely enough, I never really did it until I thought about it. Then just came to my head. The wager, the one card to play. Birth has the burdens. She has no children today. Midst all dishonour, she sees a heavy noose. Since child is an angel, the mother one child set loose. So, again, is that about a mother that can't afford to have a child in the, and they did that a lot in Victorian period. They would, they'd go to prison, or they'd go to the poorhouse, or they'd go to the asylum, single mothers. So a lot of the time they would take the lives of the child and then often themselves. So a bit heavy there. I never. It's funny how when you read these things, as you read them, I read that I looked at that lyric forever and ages, and then it didn't come to me, and then suddenly it just come to me. But it's a heavy lyric, but it's also a really interesting single, because if you imagine, I don't think you'd get singles released these days with a lyric like that and go into the top, not that it's top 20s anymore, but you know what I mean. Also, I just think that people aren't musically savvy enough to enjoy music like this. This sort of album wouldn't even touch the charts nowadays. It's too well made. I genuinely mean that. I think it's too well made. It's got too much going on. People couldn't handle it. Anyway, then we move to Out of Town. And this is where I think the dockyards thing comes in, right? This got a really punchy chorus. Now, this is what I'm saying. If I used the band to sing "Come and play circus games, come and play at circus games," like they did here on Out of Town, it goes out of town, out of town, out of town, out of town. It's like it's a really punchy big sound, because Stuart Adamson went on to form Big Country, which was a huge Scottish pop band of the early 80s. But the lyric here is, weeping by the river, no, now watch how it bends, but listen to the ripples, now watch how it descends. Nobody stands by craving, now watch how it ends. Nobody stands by craving, now watch it ends. No need to run, no need to hide, because I'm out of town, out of town, out of town, blah, blah, blah. Again, I think that's him getting away. It's about saying, I'm moving away down the river. No one's needing or craving me. I'm left. I'm gone. And that could be Stuart's. I mean, Stuart could have written that lyric because he was trying to get out of the band. Right? He was thinking about leaving. He had desires to get away, and that might be the lyric for it. Who knows? Because it does say it was written by Jobson and Adamson. Well, a lot of these things say recorded. The lyric says Skids. But musically, again, it's a nice punchy one. You can see why it was a single. I mean, it could have been a single, sorry. It is a really enjoyable song. Musically, it's quite sophisticated. The guitar part in it is, the breakdown in the middle is good. Small lyric, not a complicated, Genesis-like diatribe, but certainly a powerful song. And then we go to possibly one of my favourite songs on the album, on this side, which is Goodbye Civilian. Now this one, to me, when I read the lyric about this and listened to the music, I think it's about people leaving, emigrating, going away, leaving to better pastures, new. I'll read you the lyric again. Again, a great single. I highly recommend listen to this. It's good sing-along, very typically Skidsy sing-along chorus. Rob Jobson's voice is beautifully easy to listen to. Never been inside, my passage is close, boys in the river are dying from blows. Say hello to civilian, say hello to the sail. Always been outside, the reason is here. Boys in the river, the tide's drawing near. Again, river, he's talking about rivers all the time, and he also mentions galleons later on, and he mentions boys in the river again. Goodbye civilian. So also, is it because he's setting sail? Is he going from a landman to a sailor? This character, this person, this story, could be that. I mean, again, I could be reading too much into it, but you know me, I like to have a read. I like to read things into lyrics. It's my favourite thing. It's one of my most sort of enjoyable things about music, is to see what people mean within the word, because the music itself is universal. You can enjoy the depths of a guitar solo and the speed of a drum piece, the move and sway and melanging, the feel of music. But lyrically, is like any written word. It can be a note can be heard one way. A word can be thought of in several ways, and I think that's the beauty of a good lyric. Again, good single, fantastic single. You see why it's a single off of it. And then we get to this one, which was really fascinating. The children saw the shame. Now, again, I think I've written a note here, and I think it's about spousal abuse. Sorry about the heavy subject matter, but I think that's what it is. And in Scotland, please, I'm not, or as in anywhere, when there is poverty and unemployment, there is anger, there is substance abuse, there is violence, and unfortunately it often ends up being aimed towards women and children. And I think this song sort of may sum this up. Now again, it's also mentioning water as well, but okay, the lyric is that the masts are held on the edge, and dogs are held at bay. The climax on its verge, a mother's taken away. The master looks for land and preaches meat and fire. The master meets his land and mother meets her choir. So that sounds like to me like she's been murdered. She's meeting her choir, okay? The man has killed the wife or the lady, and then the children saw the shame. So the children were witness to it, The master cried aloud, the children can go home. The changes in the crowd, our embassy is thrown. The master cries in shame as mother joins her choir, which could be angels. The preachers all aflame as mothers in the fire. O tragedian, oh my shame. Forward go the children, playing full of sadness. Forward go the children, mother knew the answer. Forward go the children, tragedy in my shame. The children knew the shame, or saw the shame. So I think that's, again, it could be this character, this person that he's talking about. That's why he flees. That's why he goes to the sea, because he's made a mistake and he's killed his wife/partner. Who knows? But it's also a beautiful piece of music. Take the lyric out of it. It's so different to anything else musically that I think was around at the time. That's why I think this is the unheralded, perfect new wave album, of the album that says, this is the sound that the 80s will happen. This is the sound that's going forward. This is unique. And it's very unique lyrically, and it's very unique sonically. And I think it's a pinnacle of the band. And after that, of course, sadly, they never were quite the same. They just weren't. And it's the same when major driving factors of a band leave, particularly the ones that were the dynamic musical people behind the band. I mean, the same with the Stranglers when Hugh Cornwell left. Just never the same, because Hugh's guitar and his weird, obtuse lyrics, his anger and his presence were just never really captured again. And I think it's the same here when Stewart left. He sadly took his own life during a rather messy divorce. He was in America, drove somewhere and took a mixture of pills and alcohol, which is a real shame, because he was only young. He was 40, I think, at the time, which is really too young for a genius like him. And then we move into the last track on side one, a Woman in Winter. This is so Gorky Park. This is so Eastern European. This feels, like the Pistols had Holidays in the Sun. This is, I think, their Holidays in the Sun. Not catchy and fast and aggressive like the Pistols, but it's just so... It's almost, it could be a Joy Division song. It's that kind of beauty, that kind of bleak beauty. I think it's about a sailor. I mean, definitely I think it is. I think it's about someone that's overseas, a long way away from their loved ones, and has fallen in love with a stranger on different shores. This is the lyric, okay? The sailor shot the dice straight through as a woman cried with birth. So a lot of childbirth in this one. And doctors ran from down to town, resolving every myth. The ones who stayed after a fire in ice cried in winds of change, but winter is just fell some more, and nothing felt so strange. And then there's a lovely choral at the end of each verse, and it's really lovely. It's very folky refrain, okay? The cramps and fires by empty there, children had flown home. The ones who crossed still were there, as wind reached each moan. The birthday boys cried out for sun, but no suns reappeared. But winter just fell some more, they just as they had feared. So, I mean, I've always thought that it was about a man and lost love, because I used to fixate on this one lyric here. I saw the lonely boy in this other world, with a marble girl in another face in another world. I saw this lonely boy with a marble girl in another face in another world. And I always thought that meant that it was about someone over, falling in love with a stranger. But it could be about, again, falling in love with a stranger, getting her pregnant, having a child away from home. It wasn't, it's really... Yeah, I mean, I watched you darken Kipling's lights. You saw me by his throne, but winter is just fell some more, and I was still alone. So, really dark. I mean, you could read whatever you want into that lyric, and I would love to know what you guys think of it. Genuinely, am I seeing the wrong thing? Probably am, but musically, so beautiful. It's one of those songs that when I see them next year in May here in Australia, I've got my ticket and I can't wait. I hope they play. They probably won't. He did say that he might play the last track on the album, Arena. That would be really good. He'll probably do the single, like, as I said, Goodbye Civilian or something. But anyway, so we go physically and turn the record over. We just had that moment where we've gone, God, this is quite a heavy ending. And we come to Hurry On Boys. Now this one is, I don't even know what genre to put this song in. This has a Derek Wadsworth on didgeridoo in it. And it opens with a didgeridoo refrain and a guitar piece and xylophone and keyboard. And really, if you've ever heard the didgeridoo before, it has a very alluvial, soulful, deep and tragic dirge to it. And this song, again, I think this song is about, come on boys, let's get ready. We're going to get ready to fight. We're going to get ready to sail to distant shores and make the empire bigger than bigger. Okay, and the lyric is goes, "Hurry on, boys. This show's for free. Hurry on, boys. Hurry on, boys. Hurry on, boys. So we can see. Hurry on, boys. Hurry on, boys. With daddy's gone. Hurry on, boys. Mum says, cease. Boys are strong." Then it says, "The down is here. Please make a way. The down is here, come into play. The down is here to make nights long. The down is here while daddy's gone." Okay, so I think that's about someone leaving his family to go either to fight or to make money or to leave, I don't know. But the lyrics, the chorus is, "The boys are fed, the child has run. Daddy's dead, can't understand. Oh lucky man, your dad has ran. Your child has ran, oh, oh, oh." Now, again, is that has the protagonist in this song gone to war and died? And that's why it's hurry up boys, hurry up boys. It's one of those ones where so it starts with dad, and then the third chorus we've got, "Mum asked the boys, ask me. Mum asked you, is the show for free? Mum asked you, is something wrong? You returned, your boys are strong." So again, that's what I still think. I think they've gone to war. They think dad's dead. He comes back. And again, the didgeridoo on this is fantastic. It's really, really such a deep piece of music. I would think that this would have stood alone as a B-side or a single. Would have done really well, I think. Again, it's probably too dark for maybe the audience at the time. Who knows? And then we come into "Happy to Be With You." Again, it's all about missing. This one I think is about missing the boat, and technically I think it is. It's like, want to be with you, but I can't get home. Okay, and I don't know whether this is a lyric that either Stuart and Richard are trying to say, but it says the Skids wrote this one. So we missed the boat for home, so scream we can defy. We missed the boat for home, astute we could not die. Oh, this pain inside me now, it throws me to the floor. Oh, that pain's outside me now. This is heaven, can't you tell? So I think what he's saying there is that I'm on some distant shore. I can't get home. I might as well make the best I can of it. The pain is here, but it's not going to go away. We play the patrons game and run it through our hair. We play the patrons game and watch the patrons stare. Oh, this game we're playing now parades around our fun. On this game we're playing now, I'm happy to be one. So I think it's like happy to stay there, happy to get on with life. But it does seem like it to me. It's like they're saying they can't get back, and so they need to make the best of what they can. Oh, this pain is outside me now. Oh, this pain is on the floor. Like, is he being sick? Oh, who knows? Happy to come home today, could have been so near. So I mean, yeah, it's such a mindful, soulful album, so bleak in its lyrical content. Now listen to it. I listened to it so many times. I've never really dived into the words, and some of this lyrical diving is done live, guys, when I'm actually doing the show, because I write notes and I look at the notes. I'm looking at the notes here, and suddenly my brain sees other things. And yeah. Anyway, then we move on to The Devil's Decade. Again, I think the B-side of this album, the music's more complicated. It's less single oriented. You wouldn't really pull a single out of this one. It seems like they pull you in with some lighter music and then really knuckle you down, and it shows the difference of the growth of the listener when brilliant albums like Scared to Dance and Days in Europa didn't even touch the charts, where this one got to number 9 in the UK. So it could be off the back of good singles, as I said, like Goodbye Civilian, but I think it's just that the fact that the listener audience was a little bit more sophisticated towards the end of the punk decade there. So Devil's Decade. Now, Devil's Decade is a bit more tricky lyrically, because I don't think it's as in the same storyline as all the others. This one's more about a very tough time. I think it's a time when the dock cars were closing and there was no work. I imagine that Richard's dad probably had that similar problem. He was brought up in a really Catholic society, family, and it comes across in some of his lyrics here. I've never seen December look this bad before. The paper mill is closing. Death is on our shore. Minds are slowly turning. Brothers don't come home. Father lies still coughing, releasing up us a moan. So, he's probably got pneumonia from working every hour he can in the cold. There's no health care. He's probably mining. The miners have got black lung, pneumoconiosis. You try and say that slowly or quickly after a few drinks. In fact, my grandfather had that sort of horrible thing, or black lung they call it. We stood by our union, holding up the flag. The union stood by watching while we buried Dad. Mother doesn't talk now, only to hear her soul. Children hungry, let the people know. So yeah, it is. See, that's more an obvious lyric. It's more obvious about the mines closing and the dockyards closing and Thatcher possibly privatising all of the industries in the UK and putting people out of work. There were riots. There were 3-day weeks. I've talked about this before. It's quite a horrible time. I remember living through it. But they do. You can feel that it's. I don't know if it's biographical. I really don't know, but it's a beautiful song. It sits really well this side of the album with "Hurry On Boys" and with "Happy to Be With You" and at the end track "Arena" and "One Decree," which comes after it. It's really a mindful, dark album. It really could be anything by Joy Division, as good as anything they did before the sad passing. And then we come on to One Decree. Now, One Decree is quite religious, and I don't know whether this is about the family praying for the father that's died. The song before in Devil's Decade. But it says, onward pray the angels, forward we shall sail, onward through the darkness, stand fast, do not fail. Stood by was Moses' mantle, he held a new decree, we all heard, could you not see? Onward praise the godly, forward forget the true, onward miss the glory, stood fast none but few. Sailing with Moses' mantle, he held on to decree. All we seen, could not you see? Save me from disciples, save me without sin, save me from the dust, the cluster where I have already been. So yeah, I think that's their sort of their Catholic heritage coming out, maybe, possibly. I'm not quite sure, but it's one of those. It's quite a song that I think the way that Jobson sings particularly the phrase stood by was Moses' mantle. You really hear his Dumfries Scottishness coming out in that, and he doesn't care, and I love that because he's proud of his nation and his voice. And this song could be saying, you know, hey, sad that Dad is gone, you know. Anyway, then we let's move on. See, it's quite dark side of the album. And then we get to Arena. Now, Arena is, I know from talking to Richard, that his favourite song on the album. And strangely, on the streaming version, it's the second track. And I don't understand, because it's the perfect ending song, because it's quite dark, and it needs to end this album in such a way. It's got a beautiful, fantastic guitar. Stuart Adamson's guitar on all of it, to be honest. If not this song, all of the songs is so educated and so intelligent and so masterful for a man of his age and a genre that he was playing in, that it belies the for me, that you can see why when he went to Big Country, how he just made such a bigger sound, had more money and more, he got more audience. And can you imagine what he'd be doing now if he hadn't sadly taken his own life? But Arena, okay, the lyric goes, it goes this loss of jaded sanity, days of found recalling vanity. And the way he sings this is that he stabs it out. I obviously can't do it justice because I'm not singing it, but he stabs it out. It's like really sharp, stabbing soliloquies. And then he goes, the guise, the pose, serving solitude, days are found, plaiting gratitudes. Arena, I see her misdemeanor in the corner, mural watching children screaming, running. The face, the grace of his attitude makes mistakes onto platitudes. The race, the case, the boys are innocent, the mistakes by New Testaments. Arena. I genuinely not sure what the song is about. I see a misdemeanor in the corner, mural watching children screaming. Now, the only thing I can think of that just came into my head then is that the Northern Ireland issue back in 1980, because when it says mural watching children screaming, if you've ever been to Belfast, you'll know that there used to be a lot of sectarian artwork on the sides of buildings, usually masked balaclava men holding guns, and guns in general. And could it be an IRA song reference? It could be. All the boys are innocent, lonely. That's the chorus. All the boys are innocent, lonely. It could be. It could be saying. It could be what either the band's political take on the Northern Ireland issue. And if it is, it's a very powerful one, because the way that it's lyrically spat at you at the end, and the staccato guitar, and the I mean, I've not talked about the drums and bass here, but they do the job. They're not spectacular. They're not going to rock your world, but they do hold the music nice and tightly. And they are, I sort of didn't mention this before, but for me, they feel like Stiff Little Things as well. But Stiffs were more political, much more political. The Stiffs were never written an album as proggy and as lyrically diverse and interesting, I don't think. And I do love the Stiffs, you know that. As this, all right. It says at the bottom of the lyric sheet, dedicated to the big boys who did it and ran away, 3 down, 5 to go. And that's because they had a 5 record contract with Virgin, and like a lot of people did back then. And I don't think they were happy. I think they wanted to move on, because Virgin wanted them to keep making Scared to Dance, and they wanted to do other things. A lot of these record bands and labels at the time, they wanted the band to keep making the same kind of music, because it sold records. But bands want to grow, don't they? They want to change. They want to be different. They want to move forward and grow. Particularly when they start out as young people and they're mature. Look at what the Clash did. You know, the young Clash would never have made Sandinista. Never in a million years they would have made Sandinista. And should they have made it? Probably not. But that's a different story. Anyway, same with XTC. Would have XTC, who made the first album, would they envisage themselves going on to make English Settlement? No. Would the Stranglers think they were going to make Black and White or The Raven? Or no, they wouldn't. So everyone grows, don't they? And they want to move on, and unfortunately record labels don't like that, because they invest money and they buy a sound and they want that sound to stay the same, because they're worried that people aren't going to grow with the band, you know, which is a lot of bullshit, as we all know, because punk is a good example. So many of those hardcore punks end up, you know, listening to, you know, softer, more a whole different kind of sound, because they followed their band they liked through their musical journey and became, you know, lovers of synth and pop and all sorts of stuff. Some of them stayed where they were, fair enough, that's their choice, I suppose, but a lot of them grew up with their bands, and as a sound changed, because it was limited. Love punk that it is, but it was limited, and it needed to grow, and it did, and we got new wave, and I think this is the pinnacle, in my opinion, along with English Settlement, as a pinnacle of the new wave albums, because it genuinely mixes beautifully made guitar, synth, pop with punk rock elements, with fascinating and wonderful lyrics, an interesting vocal performance, and virtuosic guitar parts. So it's a cracker of an album. It's mixed beautifully. I would really highly recommend that you try and find the version that I've got it, the order I gave you. If you can, if you can't, fine. There are ways on streaming platforms to make the album run the way it should. But otherwise, listen to it in any order you want, I suppose. But I think the way that it's put on this album tells a story. In some way, I've probably mangled that story. And on reflection, some of the things that I might listen to it again, and I might see a different lyrical journey, a different story in it. I might be completely wrong. And when I meet Richard in May next year, I'm going to ask him, actually, just what he was on about in some of these songs, and see if I was anywhere near it. Anyway, that's it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. I really, really enjoyed digging into this. I really, really did. I hope you do. I know it's not heavy metal, but, you know, bear with me. Some of the stuff, as I said, some stuff is just worth trying something new with. And, you know, you might hate it, you might love it. You might say to me, Tony, what an eye-opener. And I hope you do. You might say, Tony, what a load of tosh. And I go, well, fair enough. Each into their own. Anyway, keep safe. Pardon me. Keep real. Good luck Christmas shopping. It's that time of year, isn't it? And yeah, please do like and subscribe. Do leave a review. It gives me that makes the algorithm, people find the algorithm more. And I just want to say also, while I'm here, a big thank you to the fans. I've got my Spotify wrap up thing, and would you believe it, I listened to 79,000 minutes of music. Nothing unusual there. Top 1% of the world for me, I was. Anyway, but I had so much positive feedback. 731 of you listeners out there, I am your number one podcast. That really means a lot to me. That's really, really heartwarming. And thousands more in our top 10 and top 20. And it's so really, really, you know, sometimes I do this show and I feel like, is anyone listening, or should I keep plodding along? I'm enjoying it, but I hope other people are too. And you see that, and you get a big buzz, and you just can't wait to record again. So thanks again for listening. I probably should have said this at the beginning of the show, because not everyone listens right to the end. Those that have stuck into the end, thank you very much. Bye for now.